Duck, it's time to rock. Welcome to the channel, folks. Welcome to the Ranking the Tracks show on the British Electric Blues show channel. What's the name of our show, Brad?
The 5150 show.
Oh,
the name of the show or the name of the channel? I'm still confused.
Yeah, I'm confused too. We've got all these shows, and this is called GNR, the Truth and the Lies show.
Yes. Yes.
Welcome to the channel, folks.
Yeah, welcome to the jungle.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't have put it much better myself, John. Welcome to the jungle, folks. Thank you. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us over in Australia. I understand it's hot. I was just watching the start of the NRL. Melbourne and Parramatta were getting ready to play, and the commentators were saying it's 35 degrees in Melbourne, Brad.
Mate, let me tell you, the last 3-4 days or whatever, we certainly haven't lost the winter weather. It's actually progressively got a little bit hotter. So yesterday, today, and Friday, I was cooking out there in the sun on Friday at work. And today and yesterday, it's been like really hot. But if I remember rightly, John, this time of the year last year was the same, was it? I think it was hot. Probably. End of February, start of March.
Summer has progressively been shifting to like further and further later in the year.
Yeah, it seems that way. Yeah. It seems that way anyway. But yeah, Andrew. 32 degrees now. It's still 32 degrees at 5:15 or whatever it is. And yes, I'm just reading the comments, John. Yes, we're late today because of me, because I just, I'm always late. I'm just late for everything. Sorry, guys.
It's all good, bro. We can't complain about the summer. It's the same thing here in New Zealand, folks. We've just had a tremendous summer. I went for a ride today. It's just fantastic. And by all accounts, according to people who watch the weather guys, we're going to have an Indian summer. So that means summer's going to continue right through autumn. So let's grab the fine weather and the sunshine when we can, because we know that Melbourne and where you are too, John, and here in my hometown, when it's wintertime, it can get wet and it can get cold. So, yes.
the woolies get dusted off from the back of the cupboard. They come to the front. And,
we do shows with you, bro, when you've got your beanie on and your bush shirt on.
The hoodie and the whole lot. Yeah, even with the heater cranked 35 degrees. Yeah, it's still cold.
Good to see you, boys.
And see what I did for the show. It's 35 degrees and I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt just because I got it.
You said you're going to wear it
in Sydney in 91, 92, whatever that was. So yeah, this is the actual shirt from 1991-92 tour.
You can still fit it.
I'm
impressed.
Can you see the back?
He's not breathing out though.
Well done, bro.
Yeah, still fits. It's a bit tight around the shoulders. Actually, I've noticed that today when I put it on.
Did you buy it baggy?
Huh?
Did you buy it baggy?
Look, I probably was a bit baggier on me, I'd say, back in the day. Back then, I was probably a little bit scrawnier, but I've always been a bit of a solid little nugget,
Yeah. I got not this Maiden t-shirt, but I got an Iron Maiden t-shirt that I bought at their concert in about 2010. And then when I went home, I put it on, I bought it way too big, and now it fits me beautiful. And,
fantastic.
I wear it all
Forward thinking, John.
That's it. Playing for the future.
Yeah.
That's why the boss loves you, bro. The boss loves you because you're a forward thinker.
So what you're saying, John, is from now on when I buy merch, like when I have to buy T-shirts from gigs, then I should buy a size up? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. You're planning on getting bigger?
No, actually,
you're living a healthy life.
I'm trying.
How many weights you're going to grow?
I'm trying to live a healthy life, especially post my health issues a few years ago. Now, I try and get to the gym 5-6 times a week. That's it. Just to go in, to keep fit, keep the body ticking.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'll buy t-shirts one size bigger now, just because you said it, John. Just in case.
It's good to see you, boys. Thank you for jumping on. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we're going to do part 2, I suppose. We might as well call it part 2. It's the ranking of the tracks from continuation from last week's general chat. So I don't think, guys, we'll do a bit of an intro on this because we've pretty much covered that last week. We'll just get straight into the tracks. But John, you posted on your social medias that you were having a couple of beers in Sydney, mate. So how was the trip north?
Mate, it was literally just like running interstate to go and sit down with a bunch of mates to catch up on Friday night, and then I was planning on heading straight back Saturday morning, but then one of my friends texted me that night and said, "Oh, what time are you heading back? Do you want to catch up tomorrow? We'll have a quick breakfast, lunch, and then I'll drop you to the airport." So we did that. But no, it was great. It's people like I lived in Sydney for about 8.5 years from from 2010 till about I came back to Melbourne in August 2018, and had a crew there that we started off as 3 of us, and then as work got busier, we built it up. At one point, we were a 13-person, 24-hour operation, and and that was really good. But then when my family moved back to Melbourne, I had no reason to be in Sydney anymore, and I was lucky enough to be able to transfer down and take on another project down here. But definitely the people that I worked with in Sydney were the highlight of my time there. So it was great to catch up with some old friends, some people that we hadn't seen each other for a while. A couple of them had relocated overseas and were back in town for, just generally visiting friends and family. So we took the opportunity to get together, and it was great.
Awesome.
Can I ask you something? Do you have a preference with cities, Melbourne or where you currently are, or Sydney? Is there a preference?
Melbourne is home, and the difference between Melbourne and Sydney, it's sort of all sort of the same, but it's like it's like the Twilight Zone. It's the little things that are different, and there's a lot of localized things, like even just the names of the suburbs. If you give me 5 suburb names that I've never heard of from Melbourne, and 5 from Sydney, I'll pick which ones are which, because they just got different sounds. It's just like the whole. It's it's a different place, and I've lived my whole life in Melbourne up until the time I moved up there. So look, it's much like you say about music. It's what you prefer. It's not better or worse. Everything's got its good and bad points. But I'd definitely rather be here in Melbourne than in Sydney.
Can I ask you guys something, because you're obviously 2 Australians here on the channel, and I don't think I've asked this question before because I can't remember the answer. So, in the UK, if someone's from London, you can tell because of their accent, versus someone from Manchester or someone from up north or someone from Liverpool or someone from down the coast. You can detect in their dialect where they're from. Can you guys in Australia, when you're talking to another Australian, can you tell if somebody is interstate by their accent?
That's a pretty good question, Andrew. I can certainly tell people from country Australia, like in Kalgoorlie and in the country areas of WA and rural areas of New South Wales. I've always got a bit of a slight slang about the way they talk.
Broader accent. I've always thought of that too, because America's the same, like from different areas and stuff like that. But I find that I can't pick an accent, but you pick speech patterns, language. Certain, like Brad was saying, slang terms. There's the argument of whether it's when you're talking about a chicken parmigiana, do you call it a palmy or a parma? If you go to depending on what state you're in, the schooner is the big glass or the small glass. There's the potato cake, potato scallop argument that goes on. And that's the thing that I found when I went to Sydney. It's those little things. It's not like you're not going to be able to get your point across or understand what people are saying.
Sure.
But I've heard people just say that like Queensland's got an accent. Maybe it's a bit broader, but and they're a bit more sort of like laid back in their speech patterns. But I really can't pick one particular Aussie accent. I wouldn't be able to tell you, this guy's definitely from this part of New South Wales or whatever.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, because obviously you guys are a continent. So I just, I thought about that because, as you guys say, North America, you can tell exactly where someone's from, even if someone's got a Canadian accent, because when they pronounce a boat, they got the out going, so.
And even you see Minnesotans are closer to a Canadian accent than what they would be from someone from New York.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So it's fascinating. But thanks, guys. Ellen's got a thing here. She's saying that she can tell by slang. So So, but that's different from accents, because even here in New Zealand, like we say batches. If you're going to go to your batch, that's your little holiday home. Down in the South Island, they call it a crib. We're going to go to the crib. So if anyone ever said, "Oh, we're going away for a crib," they're from the South Island. So, but they also roll the R's down there. You can tell down in Dunedin because that's where the Scottish contingent of New Zealanders arrived. So you can hear them when they roll their R's. But otherwise, just the slangs. Oh yeah, and also too, Brad, you mentioned that you can tell if someone's from the country too, because they're not they don't have that the latte cappuccino conversation going down, bro.
No, there's none of that. No, that fancy city food here. That's what they say.
That's the thing. It's sort of like if someone's speaking differently, it's more along social lines or group lines.
Yeah,
never regional.
Yeah. That's cool. Thanks, guys. So we've all learnt something. We always, that's the great thing about hanging out with friends. There's always a few things you can learn. Thank you, guys. We want to do a shout out, don't we, to the Rock Professor? As I understand it, guys, he sent a message. He's going to be on board with us next week if all goes well. So we want to wish the Rock Professor well.
He keeps holding the handrail.
And he doesn't fall over and slip over and do all these crazy things that old men do when they retire. We want to wish Ellen, obviously, too, Brad. We want to wish her and her family the best through these last couple of weeks. So, Ellen, we're thinking about you.
Definitely lots of love and prayers going your way, Mum, with everything that's going on in your world. So we know we just healing vibes and energy heading your way up there. It's not Mum that's going through it, but it's family member that's going through stuff. So
brilliant. Now, we didn't get a chance, guys, to talk about this like we normally generally do, but John, anything that's happened in the world of music and rock and roll that's piqued your interest that you'd like to talk about before we kick the show off? And then, Brad, I'll ask you the same thing. If there's anything that's piqued you.
Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. No, all the people that I kind of follow, have been pretty quiet.
Brad, you got anything that's
Well, the only thing, because I've been pretty slack on social media the last few weeks, got a lot going on here in Melbourne, but I know it was Dave Gilmour's birthday this week, so I'm a big Pink Floyd Dave Gilmour fan, so happy birthday, Dave Gilmour. An amazing Strat player, an amazing player, songwriter, and let's be honest, without him, there's no Pink Floyd.
100%. 100%.
Roger
There's no argument.
Yeah.
There's no argument.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that's hilarious, John. Roger Waters is just he should just like zip it now, eh?
I think I've listened to quite a bit of Pink Floyd this week deliberately just because it's his birthday and stuff like that. I tend to do that sort of thing. I go, I'll listen to their music a bit this week. And Dark Side of the Moon has to be one of the greatest records of all time. And I went to last year I went to watch what was it? What's that Science Works place down in Williamstown there, or what is it? That's Newport or Williamstown there. John, you know that area, the science.
There is a place called Science Works near Fitzroy.
Yeah, and they got that dome. They got the dome there where they do all the the star watching and the stuff in it. Well, they had this Dark Side of the Moon thing with all this footage.
The planetarium. Yeah,
in the planetarium, and my goodness, if that's ever on in your state, wherever you guys are watching from in America or wherever. But John, if it's ever on back at the planetarium, you've got to go check it out. Andrew, if you ever see it, they sync it up to the songs, the whole album from start to finish, and it's like a journey. It's incredible. You get lost, and then the album ends, and you're like, wow, that was something I've never experienced before. It was fantastic. So anyway, straying a little bit away from happy birthday, but happy birthday, Dave Gilmour.
No problem. And I think you need to put that down for us to do this year, because we've been speaking and talking about doing that album. And what's the one with the two guys shaking hands when they're on? Great guitar albums. Animals is, but we'd have to break those shows down to probably 2 or 3 shows, because you just couldn't do that in an hour and a half.
You need to do at least 2 parts, I think, for a Dark Side of the Moon at least. And wish you were here, probably the same, 2 parts maybe. It's a big epic, but I don't know that many people that don't like Pink Floyd, and if they do, well, they should probably release it. They should probably.
I know a few. I know a few. Yeah,
I think I
know a few.
I know 1 or 2, but I know that every time I put something on Pink Floyd to them that they've never heard before, they're like looking, going, I've never heard this before. Like their ears prick up, like this is something phenomenal. Yeah. So,
yeah. Pink Floyd is a state of mind band. I think
100%.
For a lot of people, for a lot of us, you have to be in a state of mind. And I'm not endorsing any recreational things at all. You can be in that state of mind in a lucid sense to appreciate it. But I agree with you guys. I think Dark Side of the Moon is a perfect album. And I love watching the documentaries that are on YouTube and that are available, and one of the great things I like about Dave Gilmour, and you said it sort of indirectly, Brad, Dave Gilmour doesn't put the boot in. Well, back in the day, he never put the boot in too much to Roger Waters, but Waters just takes every opportunity he can to put the boot in, and that's disappointing.
Yeah. But you know what? We're here to talk about
Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
We can talk.
It's only 19 minutes in.
It's that's a whole show within itself, Andrew, to talk about Pink Floyd. So we should leave it there.
Yeah.
And tackle the task at hand head on, I think.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, we're not going to do an intro on the album because if you are watching on a replay around this point here, I'll attach a card if I think and remember. But there'll definitely be an attachment somewhere to the first show that we did with John and Brad last week, where we sort of discussed a lot of that. If there's anything that you guys want to add before you give the rankings on your first song, no problem. Please do that. But I'm just going to get straight into side 1 of this, which is the EP that we, again, discussed last week that John put so well. And I'm glad you did that, John, because I never thought about it that way, that this was a package that captured the before Guns N' Roses as they were growing to this huge phenomenon, and then they captured this other side of Guns N' Roses while that wave was still rising. So just a great point to describe what I think is a great collection of songs. So well done, John, for doing that. And that's what, Brad, one of the reasons why we like doing this show, because opinions do matter.
100%.
People's opinions and points about something that does have an effect on the way that you relate to the music. And John, that certainly happened a lot for me this week. So the first track is Reckless Life, an interesting track. It's a Guns N' Roses track, folks, if you're not aware of that. And what I like about this, guys, is obviously the driving energy in this track. You just can't default the fact that these guys just have some power. It's full of energy. I love the riff, Brad. This band can do riffs, and there's a couple of cool tracks on here where the riff is, the key ingredient for me. And again, we've got classic. Now we're listening to it. It's classic Axl vocals. But back in the day, John and Brad, when we were listening to this, there was nothing. There was nothing like this guy's vocals on this track that we were listening to. It was just, and this was before, Brad, before I think I saw the Live in the Ritz. It was certainly around the same time, but I think I can't remember the Live at the Ritz in my mind.
A couple of years before, I think. Yeah.
86.
About 86.
Yeah. But I'm talking about when I heard it. I think I heard this before I heard Live in the Ritz. So it was just a mind-blowing experience listening to this guy singing like this. And I remember at the time that when we were listening to this, a lot of people weren't kind of grooving to the vocals, because it was a set of vocals that you either liked or you grew to like, or you just didn't like. But I was blown away by it when I first heard it. John, Brad, I have to give it a 10 out of 10, and it's never a skip. John.
Oh, am I going next? Okay. Yeah, I might be the iconoclast on this show. I got to confess that I haven't really listened to this album since back in the day. And when obviously these shows came up, I put it on again in the past week. Even like I think last week I'd only really given it a quick single spin before we got onto it. So I've got to say that I've heard it like about 3 or 4 times this week, because I kind of already knew all about it. I was just reacquainting myself with it, and I've grown away from the album. I'm really not digging it, to tell you the truth. With the I'll try not to ramble on too much, but with the 4 live tracks, I don't think they're recorded that well. I threw on a couple of other live albums, and again, it's a sort of like an independent, pre-fame, release that was basically a bonus tracks for this. So that withstanding, and I'm the kind of guy that listens to a lot of bootlegs as well, so it doesn't have to be pristine for me. But there wasn't too much that grabbed me overall on the live section. Reckless Life definitely as a opening track has got that great frenetic energy. Going on what Andrew just said about the vocals, you either love it, hate it, or grow to like it. I've sort of really grown away from Axl's screechy vocals the more I've gone on. So it's not something that I can really see myself. Like I said, I haven't listened to it for years and years, and I can't see myself really putting this on too much again. But as we go through the tracks, I'll tell you what I do and don't like. But Reckless Life, I put it down as a 7. It's definitely kick ass. Music wise, it's great. Sound wise, not so much. And vocally, it starts to grate on me a bit.
Fair enough. We're all like we all say, we're entitled to our opinions and whatnot. But
Yep.
I'm a big Guns N' Roses fan, and I'm a massive like early era Guns N' Roses fan. The Appetite album for me will always be probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, debut album by any band, and I think it that even for me, saying that about, say, bands like Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, or them, I still think this album outshines those as a debut album. Led Zeppelin 1, all those, the Beatles' first record. I think this is just one of the most amazing bands in this era. You think about the late 80s, what everything was around at the time, and for me, they just put that little bit of rawness back into the tracks and not the tracks, but the music in that time frame. For me, I always saw Live Like a Suicide more like the bands. I think that was more like a demo they did a live demo that they used to try and get gigs with more so, and they released it to their fans. I think they only released from memory about 500 copies. I could be wrong, guys. I could be wrong with that. But it was never really meant to be. And from my understanding, it could be the reason for that not sounding as good as we'd like, John, is because I think it was a desk recording. I'm not 100% sure of that. I don't think it was, and it was just mixed. So, I mean, you also got to understand, I don't think Slash is using his a Les Paul at this point. I think he was using a BC Rich, which the tone of the thing is slightly different to the Gibson sort of tone, very close. Adler's drumming, Reckless Life. I mean, that fast, aggressive, and energetic feel on the track for me. The franticness comes from the drumming on this track, and everything's built around it. I think it's a simple, effective, bluesy, hard rock song and progression on the guitar. It's not a difficult song to play by any means. Obviously, lyrically, Axl wrote it about living life on the edge. That sort of thing is reoccurring with Guns N' Roses songs. Lyrically, there's a slight, what shall I say? Welcome to the jungle. What can I say? I'll read the lyrics to that. It's about, similar sort of scenarios we'll be talking about with the acoustic stuff coming up. Originally, obviously, it was written by Axl Rose, Izzy Stradlin. It's in their pre-Guns N' Roses band days, more Hollywood Rose. So effectively, it isn't really Guns N' Roses. It's Hollywood Rose. I think that's what they called themselves at that time. But you can still tell it's Slash. His signature lead guitar playing is there. Axl's vocals. I think Axl was a baritone voice, and he used to use that screechiness because he could. I think it was like so you'll see when we get to like Patience and that what I'm talking about. He's more of a baritone voice. He's got more of that he's comfortable singing in that dynamic area vocally. But the screechiness is something that he discovered trying to I guess compete with a lot was going around at the time. But I think when I first heard Guns N' Roses, I was a bit shocked by his vocal, and it took me a bit of time to settle into his vocal. I think at this time, around 85, 86, he's really discovering his voice. So I put that into account when I listen to this. When you listen to the second half of the CD or album, Lies, you can really tell his voice has developed a lot more from this early stuff. I think the notable moments in this song, the opening section where Axl sort of comes in and he's got that vocal tone where it's chaotic, in my opinion. It pulls you in or out, like there's no in between. You either, and you're a slight shock factor. If you were at that gig, you'd be shocked. You'd be like, "What? Who's this?" If you'd never seen them before. So this was early Guns N' Roses. So for me, it's a 10 out of 10 and never a skip, guys. Andrew.
Yeah, well done, mate. I appreciate that. Alan's given that 10 out of 10, and Bent's saying raw, nasty, classic, Axl vocals, drive-in riff, and 8 out of 10. And he's made a comment. I know we aren't talking about Pink Floyd, but he made a comment here that every night for the last 11 years he falls asleep listening to Dark Side of the Moon. So, well done.
You never heard the end of it, mate. You should try it. It's good. All the way.
And I reckon when I first started buying CDs, I used to listen to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the same thing, used to put it on, and I'd fall asleep to it. By the time I got to A Day in the Life, I was. So I understand where you're coming from with Pink Floyd listening to that record, because Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band became that album for me. I used to put it on every night before bed, and it would put me to sleep.
Brilliant.
Anyway.
Well done. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, John. Thank you, Brad, for your comments on the opening track. The next track is
just real quick, Andrew, I just wanted to bring something up. When Brad mentioned 500 copies, I quickly went to Wikipedia to look it up, and apparently 10,000 copies on vinyl and cassettes.
Okay, I knew it was something. I couldn't remember what it was.
I just found out something else that I didn't realise, and I don't think that we brought up. This isn't actually a live recording. They recorded this in the studio and added crowd noise afterwards because Geffen said it'd be too expensive. I was not aware of that. I thought it was a live recording.
I always thought it was a sound recording. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
actually,
good point.
Quoted as saying, "We thought it'd be funny to put a huge stadium crowd in the background at a time we were lucky to be playing to a few hundred." So there you go.
And I think that's why Ritz was so important for us back in the day, because no doubt about that, guys, that was definitely live. So the next track is Nice Boys. It's the first cover, and you guys will be happy to hear an Australian band wrote the song Rose Tattoo, and that band has cult status here in New Zealand as well. With their driving rock and roll blues-based music, and clearly had an influence on these guys when they were performing live. And they picked a great song. If this was part of their live setup, it's a fantastic song. And it's a continuation, isn't it, Brad and John, of the first track? There's, with Axel, with his vibe going on. I really like the chorus on this track. The chorus is fantastic. Nice boys don't play rock and roll. It's just, fantastic. But clearly the band get into it, and you can feel that energy, even though, it's not a live recording, but it's just there. It's just, fantastic from that point of view. And Brad, I don't know, is that a slide guitar that they're playing on this track? Is that?
Yeah, he's playing slide. Slash is playing slide on this one. Yep.
Yeah. And fantastic. I think that's great. Not quite a 10 out of 10 for me. I've ranked this as a 9, but very much a continuation, guys, of the opening track. But more importantly, John, it's never a skip.
Fair enough. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they put slide on this, because early Rose Tattoo was all about the slide.
You got it.
And it's a pretty faithful version. I did actually go back and listen to the Tats version again, because when I was listening to this, I was thinking to myself, well, not too bad, but realistically, if I want to hear Nice Boys Don't Play Rock and Roll, I'll go to the original. Look, none of this stuff is something that, like, I can't sit through. It's not like Supertramp where I can't stand the guy's voice. But definitely, like I said, Axel for me, Sweet Child of Mine is a song that I can listen to 8 times in a row, and I listen to it probably daily on my playlist mixes and stuff like that. And I would be quite happy for Guns N' Roses in my little universe to have been a one-hit wonder band with that song. But with Nice Boys, again, keeps up the frenetic pace of Reckless Life. You'd probably, if you took a 5-second snippet of either, you'd be hard pressed to tell which one it was. But I gave that one a 7 as well. I've got nothing really against it, but again, I've got better versions to listen to, I think.
There you go. Well, Nice Boys. I mean, we all know by now the Rose Tattoo cover. And obviously Guns N' Roses were big fans of the Aussie band, and that relationship with those guys continued. Rose Tats were supporting Guns N' Roses for a while here in Australia, and they actually when Slash toured here just last year, I think it was, Rose Tattoo were playing on the bill, and Slash got up on stage with them and did Nice Boys.
Really?
And song, yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, the I guess they love the band. I mean, it's like
Wow.
paying a bit of homage to their bands that inspired them to sound the way they do. It is very close, faithfully as close as they could do it, but it still has a bit of a Guns N' Roses, edginess to it, like all this stuff. I mean, whenever they cover a song, I don't think they were ever trying to set out to sound identical. Like some bands will try as close as they can get to playing it, where they would do their Guns N' Roses version. I mean, you only got to look at Live and Let Die, for example, and Heaven's Door and whatnot. Whenever they cover a song, it wouldn't be necessarily, let's get this the same, let's do it, identical. They did it their way. There's a few really good things in this version of the song. I think the arrangement's great. The fast-paced sort of drumming from Steven Adler, I really enjoyed that. I mean, I love Steven Adler's drumming, and as faithful as it is, you can still tell it's Steven Adler on drums. It's got that edginess and that sort of. Steven Adler's got a remarkable feel on the drums, and no matter what he does, he always plays a certain way, and I can really hear it when I'm listening to it. Notably, Axl's voice on it's very cool. I love Slash's slide work. Izzy really shines through on this one, playing he's playing he's playing all the fills and the in-between stuff on the guitar. And I love it's opposite on this, on Live Like a Suicide. The guitars are opposite round to which way they ended up being from Appetite for Destruction onwards. Because if you pan hard to the right, it's always Slash. If you pan hard to the left, it's always Izzy. But on this record, it's reversed. So
Correct.
Slash on the left and Izzy's on the right. But you can really hear what Izzy's playing, and I love Izzy's rhythm playing. He's one of my favorite rhythm players. He's got a certain style that stems the Rolling Stones thing, the Faces, all that stuff in there, as well as Aerosmith. You can really hear it, and I think it's a pretty cool version of the song. I gave it 9 out of 10 as well, Andrew, and never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I just want to say good day to our good friend Mark Tanner, who's popped into the chat. Long time no see, Mark. Good to see you, brother. If you're watching, folks, and you haven't already subscribed to his channel, please do, because he's got some really cool content on his channel. So worth checking out. Good to see you, brother. The next track is Move to the Move to the City. Yeah. Is that correct? Yeah, I can't read my own writing, guys. I have to make this quite clear to you guys. This is my favorite track on this side. I just think it's fantastic. That opening riff, guys, is brilliant. That descending run after the riff, it's fantastic. Again, Axl sounds incredible, and he sounds a lot different. His vocals is a little bit different on this track. I like that. And you've already mentioned, Brad, Adler's drumming. I've made a note here. Adler's drumming is powerful on this album. It's just fantastic. And it's, easy to forget that he hadn't been playing drums for a long, long time, guys. He was... he came to playing drums later than most rock and roll drummers, so he definitely had this innate talent and this ability to, keep time and do it organically. Because remember, we spoke about it a couple of other shows, that he speeds up and slows down. There's no metronome there, but he's just doing what rock and roll drummers do, guys, so, and I love that. And they sound so tight. Whether they're recording live together, I don't know, John or Brad. I'm assuming they are. I'm assuming they're recording this. Maybe there might be some overdubs. I don't know. There wasn't a lot of money, I understood, spent on this EP, but, there would have been a little bit there. Either way, it sounds good. This is a 10 out of 10, and it's my favorite track on this side. John?
I'm so glad that before the show started, we had a little discussion amongst ourselves how it's okay to disagree, because
sure,
I could not even remember this song at the start of this week. Like I could not think of a single note or lyric or anything about it. I knew the title and that was it. And after listening to it a few times this week, I could not quote you one thing with a gun to my head. I don't even know what I heard. I remember hearing horns at one point, which was interesting, and that was another thing that made me wonder. You know, back in their club days, they wouldn't have had a horn section, would they? But you never know who pops past the gig sometimes. All the musos know each other. But yeah, this song, mate, I like put it on. I've got no complaints about it, but it just doesn't hit me at all. I like I said, I can't even think of it in my mind. Like a little bit of it humming. Like there's a couple of songs on the other side that I hadn't heard for a while, and they've been sort of like a bit of a unwelcome earworm to me over the past few days. But this thing sort of, the minute it's over, I've forgotten about it. So with that, I gave it a 6 because it's obviously not touching me at all. It's fun while it lasts, but then it disappears.
Andrew,
I don't know.
It could be grounds for a timeout almost, Andrew.
Like I said, I'm respectfully disagreeing, and these opinions are not shared by the management, but are solely my own.
Hey, Jim.
It's always good to have a bit of controversy on the show, John. So it's all good.
Just your fault for inviting me.
Move to the City, Andrew. I think it's a great song. The rhythm on this one's a little looser than the first two opening tracks. It's a lyrical, it's a story. This song, it's obviously storytelling, sort of moving to the city, and that theme does mirror their own success and how they rose, to success. But they repeated themselves doing that a few times in songs, guys. So that's something that was common for them to do. So was sing about their own success or their own rise or their own recollections of what it was like to first come to LA. And I think this song sort of catches the early spirit of Guns N' Roses when they were, first moved to LA. They're struggling musicians. Axl's vocal on this is a standout for me. But guys, I've got to tell you, I love this song in the later days. And there was a gig they used to do. There's a live recording that, and it was on video, VHS, and then DVD called Live in Tokyo. And I used to love the version of that on that as well, which had a big jam section at the end with horns and all that sort of stuff. And it was really, really cool. But yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Andrew.
Fantastic. I just want to do a shout out to Wano and Jim who have joined us. Jim, Jazz Thunder. Haven't seen you for a long time, Jim. Good to see you. And Wano, haven't seen you for a while. So thanks for popping on from Boston. Yep. Good to see you. Did the Celtics win? I was watching earlier. The Celtics were playing the Lakers, and I think Celtics were about 4 points ahead. So if you're a Celtics fan, let me know, mate. The last track on side one, which is the EP last track too, had to be obviously clearly if you're a rock and roll band in America, there's going to be a cover, surely, Brad, of a Aerosmith song, and this is it. And Mamakin is it. Could have been my favorite song on this side, but I went with the other song because it was the Stone, not the Stones. It was the Guns N' Roses original track. Yeah. But Jeepers, I've just got to say, wow, that intro on this track is just fantastic. It's in the groove. It's faithful to Aerosmith, which is good, but they stamp their own mark on it, which is clearly, obviously, the vocals, even though Tyler can get up there, can't he? Tyler's got one of those interesting vocal ranges as well. This band sounds like they've been on the road for decades. When I've finished listening to this track, I think, wow, this is a polished band. No bum notes. Everything is on time. It's recorded really, really well, this track. And, you got to remember that they're early 20s, Brad, 20, 21, 22 when they're recording this. And I had to pinch myself to remind myself that they weren't 70-year-old guys. This is not 60-year-old guys. They're 20. Unbelievable. Everything on that track rocks. I've given it 10 out of 10, Brad. And John, never a skip.
Beautiful. John?
Yeah, if you can ask me what my top pick for this side would be, it would be Mamakin. I really like the song. I actually heard this one before I really heard the Aerosmith one, so it was my introduction to the Aerosmith version, which, much like track 2, I've got to say that if I'm going to choose one to listen to, I'll listen to the original. But yeah, this one definitely rocks. It's got the groove that the original had. It's pretty faithful, as you said. And I put a 7 on this one as well. Like I said, generally the live side of this release was, to me, sort of more an insight into the origins of the band, and as more a sort of like I listened to it in reference to what was to come. And yes, I think for me, Mamakin was the highlight of side 2, and definitely if you tell me, put one of these ones on, that's the one I'd choose.
Fantastic.
Mamakin. Well, Aerosmith, back in the days of me getting into Guns N' Roses, like an old fella, talking like an old man now, and talking like that about Guns N' Roses is very strange. But back in the days when I was getting into Guns N' Roses, I was a fan of Aerosmith and their work throughout the 70s. So this album, guys, obviously Lies came out after Appetite for Destruction. So for me to hear them playing Mamakin and realizing it was obviously before Appetite era, I could see where that influence had been drawn from. And it's very clear when you listen to their version of it. It's a slightly rawer, stripped down version of Mamakin compared to Aerosmith. It's definitely got that Guns N' Roses sound going. It's early days of a Guns N' Roses as well, so they're still developing a sound, if that makes sense. But their sound is evident anyway. I think the lyrics connected to Guns N' Roses a lot. Steven Tyler's lyrics on this song about chasing your dreams and challenges of being on the road and all that stuff. Like that, they were obviously at that early stage of their career where they were doing all that stuff. I think the Axl and Slash were both massive Aerosmith fans, and I think Izzy might have been as well. And I think just covering an Aerosmith song would have been a nod to their heroes at that particular time as well. But I do think Axl and Slash inject a little bit more grit into the song than the original, but it does sound right at home for them playing an Aerosmith song. It sounds right at home. It does sound like it could. If you didn't know that it was an Aerosmith song, you would think it's a Guns N' Roses song, like from their performance of it. So for that reason, I've given it 10 out of 10 as well. And that is partly the reason, part of the reason I gave it 10 out of 10 is because I'm an Aerosmith fan as well. So,
yeah. Yeah, and we've ranked a couple of Aerosmith albums. At least a couple, haven't we? 2 or 1?
Yeah, I think we've done 2, but we'll certainly do some more in good time.
Toys in the Attic. I know we've done Toys in the Attic.
Yeah. There's plenty of records to do.
So before we get on to the side 2 on this collection, folks, I just got to remind you, from my perspective, I think it was a masterstroke by the recording company and the management to come out with this compilation, while the success of Appetite for Destruction was taking its toll on people. It was a great presentation of the development of the band, and which obviously gets us onto side two. Now, Brad and I, with the Rock Professor, have had a couple of opportunities in the past where we've ranked acoustic albums. And John, I think basically you and I and the Rock Professor have done that a couple of times too, haven't we? John Cougar, Mellencamp, and certainly a couple of Bruce Springsteen albums there that are heavily acoustically orientated. And it might seem a little bit, difficult at the start to rank an acoustic album, but there's always, or acoustic songs, but there's, always things to talk about. And that's one of the great things that I found when I was tapping into talking about these songs, guys. But again, I've got to do a shout out to the album because it just brought back so many memories, listening to it for the last couple of weeks and just, thinking about the songs, especially these acoustic songs, because this was the time when I got together with friends and we were playing our acoustic guitars. We grabbed them out, John. This was the catalyst for us to get out there, Brad, and play acoustic songs. And we did a couple of these versions, and it was great. And and at parties, people loved it. It was just fantastic. It was just so great times. Patience, first track. Wow, what an intro, guys. I've listened back to this track, and you got to remember when this album was released, this song wasn't a classic. It wasn't a classic song. It's a classic song now. Everybody knows it, but back in the day it wasn't. But you knew you were listening to something special. Well, I certainly did. The vocals on this track, it's just fantastic. I'm going to give you guys plenty of opportunities to talk about these songs too. It's just a beautiful song. I remember thinking that back in the day, it was just beautiful. Everybody liked it. We could all tap into it, and I still do today. There's when I listen to this song, there's a lot of emotions from lots of periods in my life. And that's one of the great things about songs, isn't it, guys? So I have to give this song a Brad score, and it's definitely never a skip. John?
Yeah, look, I've been kind of dismissive of this whole album, and like I said, I haven't really listened to it, but I'll tell you right now, Patience, I'm giving it a 10. It's a brilliant song. It's one of the few times in my life where I hear someone whistling and I don't want to smack him in the back of the head. But been about a month or two ago, I got together with my my buddies in the my brother-in-law's cover band. That we had a barbie at one of the guys' place, and everybody pulled out the acoustic guitars at one point, and this was one song that I don't think I've played since the mid 90s, and didn't skip a beat. Just we all knew it. We all just completely just jumped to someone mentioned it, and off we went. And so it was always, as you mentioned, the getting around with a couple of acoustics at a party like that. This is one we always used to play back in the day. But fantastic song, simple song, nice song, very Guns N' Roses-ish in its attitude, but beautiful. And a beautiful song is a beautiful song. Definitely, I would never skip this. In fact, it's probably the only song really that I would continue to listen to, sort of out of this set really. But this is, I think we slightly predate Unplugged around this time. So this came out in 88, didn't it, the album? So this was late 88, and really as a stopgap because Appetite for Destruction had been released a year and a half before, back in the day, where the bands cycle would normally be like an album a year-ish sort of thing, not like these days. And because of it really not going anywhere for quite a long time and then meeting its success further on down the line, they were sort of like still riding the high from Appetite for Destruction, but it was already so far back from a release date at that point that they needed something in the shops for them. So, you know, cashing in on what was just starting as the trend on MTV with the Unplugged series, but I mean, really not so much. I'm just looking now just to double check that I'm not talking rubbish. And MTV Unplugged pretty much aired 3 days before this this album came out. So obviously there'd been you know, it's like a bit of a thing in the back. I remember seeing a lot of the metal bands doing acoustic versions and things like that. So definitely it was a trend that was starting to take place, and I think they perfectly capitalized on the landscape at the time, and by marrying their soft acoustic tracks with their wild you know, frenetic live EP, they were able to strike that balance that, as I said before, perfectly bookended Appetite. But Patience, can't go wrong. Definitely the standout track on this album, and definitely deserving a 10.
Yeah, perfect, John. Yeah, Patience is just one of those songs that's built on layered acoustic guitars, and let me take a minute to appreciate how well they recorded the acoustic guitars as well. I mean, the production, in my opinion, for this acoustic stuff is fantastic. I think they really captured the essence of that acoustic energy. Even with some of the songs having drums on them later and clean electric guitars and things like that, but they really captured that laid back vibe that they went for with this album. And well, it's really an EP for when you think about it. I mean, I can't remember a song that, like you said, John, with whistling in it that I've actually appreciated until this song. Let's be honest. I mean, I've always thought whistling in songs has always been a bit half-assed if there was. And then I thought the first time I ever heard this song, I remember hearing that, you know, that sort of brushy acoustic sort of playing with the arpeggiated chords and the real gentle subtleness of it, and the way Slash is playing, not even with a guitar pick, he's using his fingers to play, you know, very Mark Knopfler-y sort of in that vibe. And it really does put me back in a time when I think exactly what I was doing at that particular time in my life when I first heard this song and this album. You know, it's a I guess Axel pleading for patience in a struggling relationship. Obviously, the lyrical content is, in my opinion, really, really relatable on so many levels for everyone. I'm sure we've all been in that situation. Like I said, I love the acoustic tones. You know, Izzy and Duff and Slash playing acoustic guitars on this one, but Slash is playing on this. His lead guitar work is wonderful. Not even just a solo, but the way he's playing a lot of the especially in the outro, or the sort of magical little stuff he's playing there. But there's a lot going on in this without it sounding like a lot. I will say that. I dare say this is one of Guns N' Roses' biggest hits, and probably to this day one of their most famous tracks. You know, I think, yeah, it would have to be, you know, it would have to be one of the most, you know, requested songs, really. Let's be honest, because other than "Sweet Child of Mine," I know that the band had a lot of conflicting sort of accounts of what the song was about, and but I know Axl, he put his heartfelt sort of energy into the vocal. You can really tell he's singing. He's soft singing during the verses and everything. That's his real, like, that's his proper voice. That's how he actually sings. When he starts singing with a little bit more that full throttle stuff and pushes his vocal, he's actually putting that vocal on. Like he actually, that wasn't his real voice. He's actually just created that voice, and that's what he became famous for. But his vocal, if he was to just sit there strumming an acoustic guitar, is exactly what it is through the verses. It's got that sort of baritone voice. He's actually got a very deep talking voice. If you've ever heard him in interviews, he's got a very deep voice. I think it's a great song. It's a beautifully written song, well written song. Considering, Appetite for Destruction came out, and then this song comes out on the next record. It's a big contrast, but it shows their more subtle and dynamic side to the band as well. I think it's a fantastic song. I've always loved the background vocals in the outro bit, because you can really hear like Duff and Izzy singing along, which I really like hearing that sort of stuff. I gave it 100 out of 10, guys. Never skip. Andrew.
Yeah, well done. Well done. Thanks, guys. And thanks for everybody in the chat offering some comments and having a conversation. It's really great to see. Gosh, if you thought the first track was a great party song, the next track, Used to Love Her, was just definitely always a party stealer. Just 3 chords, guys, somebody with 3 months worth of guitar playing under them, Brad and John, could play this. It's just a D, an A, and a G, and it's away you go. It's just fantastic. And we still play it today. It's fantastic from that perspective. Fun lyrics, let's be clear. There's a lot of fun lyrics on this side of the album. It's rock and roll, folks. No one's taking it seriously. Brad, you mentioned Axel's vocals, on the first track. Well, he continues that, but you got some great harmonies, John, with the other band members coming in on this. And when we forgot to show some pics, so maybe after we've finished doing this round, before we go to the next 2, we'll show the pics. But there's one pic that I've got from where these guys are doing an acoustic jam in a nightclub, or is it a record store? It's on YouTube and it's on Daily Motion. And unfortunately, the camera is not set up where you can see what the guys are playing, but it's a fantastic clip. And you can see the band are tight, when they're playing this live. And I think back, to what it's like, guys, to learn a guitar. And we've mentioned it lots of times, John, over the years that you were listening to albums, to play along with. I know guys that were learning to play acoustic guitar to these songs, So from that perspective, it's a great thing. Brad, I love, you mentioned it before, the Stones vibe. You've definitely got a Stones, Sweet Virginia, Let It Bleed vibe going on here on this track. They tap into that vibe. I love that. And I've given this, because it's a fun song, guys. And it's an easy song, and rock and roll should be all those things, John. Brad score. John.
Okay. Yep. Well, funnily enough, I was talking about your mate's barbecue. This one got pulled out as well afterwards. I think it was more just for the guys to upset their wives who were there. But yeah. So again, thinking of it as a something that came out in 1988, that we don't judge it by today's sensibilities. Definitely not something that I would have accepted someone put something out like this, these days. But yeah, again, probably something that's dropped off for me because of the times. Simple song, definitely tongue in cheek. At least you hope it would be. But yeah, this one I gave it a 6. Something that's fun little ditty, but it didn't really offer me anything that I'd keep going back to.
John's a hard man to please.
Oh, look, man, I tell you what, this album for me is basically a whole bunch of stuff tacked onto the back of Patience.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's how it is for me.
Well,
It's definitely how I feel about it now is different if you would have asked me back at the time, but here we are today doing the show.
Used to love her. Look, Andrew, you mentioned it's got that simple sort of 3-4 chord sort of song. It's like almost a blues progression at some point. It's laid back. At some point, I used to think it had a bit of a country feel to it as well. It's it's tongue in cheek. Let's leave it at that about the lyrics. The song obviously sparked a lot of controversy. Axl claimed it was meant to be a joke. It's over exaggerated heartbreak. You know what I mean? At some point, we've all been through heartbreak where you think, oh, wouldn't it be great if you could, twist a neck? But most men don't think that way. They might joke about it, but they wouldn't action it. So it is all tongue in cheek. And I've always thought the drumming in this is great. It's got a lot of swagger sort of thing to it. The whole vibe of the song is fun. I love the acoustics and the clean electric vibe. It's got like, I love the guitar solo. If you have a listen in headphones, you'll hear someone either putting on a female voice or a female voice saying soul during the solo, like as if stop it, soul, like give me your attention, or I don't know. It's like tongue in cheek. He's trying to play guitar and his missus is going soul, like stop it. I've always thought that was very cool that they threw that in there. Because if people don't know who Slash is, his real name is Saul Hudson. So I thought it was pretty cool they chucked that in there. Look, the contrast between that sort of, it's got a bouncy feel to it. It's tongue in cheek and it's a catchy song. I gave it a 10 out of 10, guys. I think it's a great song and really fun. We used to play it in Appetite for Destruction, and I always really enjoyed playing this one because it was one you didn't have to focus on playing. You just watch the crowd singing along. And I'll be honest with you, nearly every single person, male, female, was singing along to it. So, I always thought it was a fun one to play. Andrew.
No problem. Cool. I'm going to throw up some picks, guys. So just some classic picks here of the band. We all had this poster.
Oh, yeah.
Again, young dudes. Another classic pick there.
Yeah.
At the height of the band's success.
Yep.
That's the cover of Live Like a Suicide.
Yep.
Pretty cool. And there's the cover of the album that we're ranking.
Yeah.
Here's another poster pick you would have had, guys.
Yeah. That was always a center page of Kerrang or something,
Rare shot of the hatless Clash.
Yeah.
Another cool one there with the cowboy boots. Love that. Rock and roll.
Oh, yeah.
So here's a clip. This is go and check this out. This is Guns N' Roses at CBGB's in New York City where they're playing. And unfortunately, the camera's not set up capturing the band, but you can see what Slash is doing there with his left hand, playing a lot of these acoustic songs. Fantastic. We'll all be familiar with that, I'm sure. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And there's another pic there of them playing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Izzy was such a cool dude, like back in the day.
Izzy's super cool, bro. Look at that.
Yeah.
So I used to have a friend called Joe Rao, and he looked a little bit like you put a cap on him. He looked like Izzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he knew it. He knew it too, bro. He fucking knew it was cool. Last two songs, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Izzy was always, secretly my favorite, I think, back in the day. I just thought, I'd love to play in this band and be, the Izzy Stradlin in the band, the quiet dark horse of the band. Very cool.
Songwriter.
Yeah.
You're crazy. Now, John mentioned, we had Appetite for Destruction out for a while. Depending on where you lived, you had it for a year or maybe 6 months before this album came out. And I think that was about our time frame, John. We never had a 12-month distance between these albums. It was like really, really short.
Fair enough.
Which is understandable when you're living in New Zealand back in the day. But You're Crazy was, I remember listening to this the first time thinking, wow, because you're really familiar with the version on Appetite. And to hear this, it was just like incredible. It was, I just, it became my favorite version for a long, long time, Brad. It's just another wow. Oh yeah, it's just like it's, like winding up a spring, and then he lets it go. Incredible opening lead performance by the vocalist. Look, I'm gonna pass it over to you guys because there's a lot I can say, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. Really, really great to hear that a rock and roll band can put this energy. And again, John mentioned that, rock bands and metal bands were doing acoustic sets for a while. Led Zeppelin were doing it, but this was the first time when my normie friends were listening to this kind of stuff and they were blown away by it. I remember people going, what the hell is this? I love it. I have to give it a Brad score. John.
Yeah, with this one, I was thinking.
Hey, Helen.
I was thinking to myself, if we're going to pull a song out of Appetite to do an acoustic version, this would not be the one that I would have chosen. I think that Rocket Queen would have been great. I think that Think About You would have been great as well. But to me, when I compare this to the full band, full tilt, full speed version, I think it suits the song better. And there was also parts of it where sort of like, again, listening to this album over the past week, some stuff grows on you, and this has just been getting sort of like annoying me more. This is the one song that his vocals were really, really grating on me in the early part of the song. But it's definitely interesting reimagining of the song. It's really just a slowing down of the song. They haven't really changed the arrangement that much. I only threw this one a 6 as well. Again, if I'm going to listen to You're Crazy, I'm going to do it when I listen to Appetite for Destruction.
Fair enough. Did you give it a 6, John?
Yeah.
I'm scared to give you my score then. Because
we already had the discussion how it's okay to disagree, and
because
what it does for you.
I think Guns N' Roses, when they opened in Melbourne back in 87 or whatever the year was that you guys went, they actually opened with this song the way that it was played on Lies, but electrically. And this is the way the song used to actually be before they sped it up for Appetite. And obviously it's a drastic reversion or reworking, of the Appetite version. But this is originally how it was meant to be on Appetite, just electrically without the acoustics, I think. And then, because we're going for more of a bluesy feel, I think lyrically we all know what it's about. Axl, was always a bigger fan of this version of it than the faster version of it, I think, before they sped it up for Appetite. I think it's great how they've done the acoustic guitars, and I personally think Axl's vocal on this is fantastic. I think what he does on this that sets him aside from the Appetite vocal is it gives a bit more dynamic there. And I personally love this version equally as much as the Appetite version. I've never distinguished between the two, saying I like this one better or that one with this particular song, because In Appetite, when we play this song, some nights we go, let's play the slow version, let's play the fast version. We'd play it how we felt on the night and picking the crowd. Sometimes we used to play the Appetite version and it would start fights at the back of the room. So we would have to, depending on the crowd, have to play a slow version of it because we didn't want people to sort of get carried away at the back of the room and smashing each other over the heads with bar stools, and we had that happen. No word of a lie. Dorset Gardens Hotel happened. At the back of the room, we were playing the fast version of the song, and I seen a bar stool go like that, and then there was this tussling at the back of the room. And it's one of those songs I think, I love it equally the same way, but I love his vocal on this, how he builds it up and puts a bit more dynamic into it than the Appetite version. I've given it 100 out of 10 and never a skip. Andrew.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, John. Hey, Helene, good to see you. Not feeling well, under the weather. Get well soon. Thanks for jumping on, and obviously lots of people saying hi to you. So especially Helene saying that we missed you today. Thank you. Thanks, Helene. Thanks, Ellen. The last track on this incredible and interesting collection of songs is One in a Million. And again, there's controversy with this song too, folks, back in the day. I'll just say this, it's just another fun song. One that was attempted to be played by a lot of people too back in the day, guys. I love the intro. The intro is fantastic. That fuzz guitar, Brad. I'm assuming it's a fuzz. It's got to be. It's just fantastic. I remember going, wow, just a nice little piece to add to the, to the end of the album, giving it still that little bit of edge, that rock and roll edge, even though it's an acoustic song. And those bongos, clearly it's the bongos coming in through. I love that. Great memories listening to this song, and I'd recommend people to go and check it out too. Back in the day, rock and roll was about fun. I keep saying it, and we got to keep that fun flag flying because a lot of people don't want to fly fun flags. I've given this a Brad score too. I just think it's an incredible song. John.
I hope we can still be friends. I have been shit canning this album a bit going before this one, and this is actually the song I like the least of this album. I don't get the fun bit out of it. I just find that I just find it nasty. Maybe I'm missing something, but yeah, if this sort of song epitomizes the type of attitude that I don't like, and I found in general the whole sort of big sweary and antagonistic and sort of like attitude where they say, oh, they're unfiltered, this is where they are, they're not apologetic. I feel it's all front. It's like that little dog that yaps, and even dog lovers just want to kick, just starting the fight for no good reason. This song, it just doesn't get, I don't get the song less than I get any of the other songs off this whole release. I don't really rate it at all. And at the risk of blowing everyone's head, I only gave this one a 4. Yeah.
Ooh.
I don't like it. I'm not negating anything that anyone else finds in it, and I understand what's going on with it. But personally, for me, it just doesn't hit me.
Fair enough. We're all entitled to an opinion.
Mark in the comments are saying that like they're pretty sort of like hard people to get on with, and I really haven't. Not that I've gone searching for news on Axl Rose or like that, but his whole shtick of coming on 3 hours late on stage for no good reason when he hasn't got a day job to run home from, and just like I haven't really seen anything redeeming about the guy. So that makes it very hard for me to get into his view of what he's trying to put through on lyrics sometimes. But that's again one man's opinion.
Yeah, everyone's entitled to, 1 in a million for me personally. Obviously the lyrics highly controversial. You know, there's a lot of language and targeting various groups and whatnot. Axel did claim that the lyrics were autobiographical, not anything to do with anything but from reflecting his culture shock from when he arrived in LA from Indiana. So, you know, that's his point of view from autobiographical. That's how I mean it. And obviously there's a lot of backlash from it. But we've got to remember, going back to the 60s, there's always been controversy in music. There's always been controversy in songs. Whether Axel took it pretty far, well, he may have, but it's just rock and roll. That's all it is. You could say, you know, the certain way 80s bands sung about women was, you know, pretty poorly, treating women poorly, but it's all rock and roll. It's what it was, and women sometimes are the biggest fans of the music. So I think from Axel's point of view, he was, and I'm not trying to defend anything here, but Axel was basically just saying it was autobiographical. He wrote it as his opinions when he first arrived to LA in the rock scene. And there's musically, I think there's some great stuff going on there. I mean, that throaty, fuzzy guitar tone from Izzy Stradlin, blended with the acoustic vibe. It's got, I mean, Izzy to me has always been like the Rolling Stones edge to Guns N' Roses. He's always put that Stones edge on guitar. His songwriting, the way he wrote songs, he always gave it that Keith Richards-y, Ron Wood sort of vibe. I always thought that that was his love. He loved the Stones that much that he would throw that everywhere he could. And I'm hearing, it's just a shot away. I'm just hearing like Stones when I hear this song, to get away from the controversy side. And I think Slash's acoustic guitar solo on that is one of the highlights on this album. It's highlighting his ability as a guitar player to not just be, you know, a shredder, I guess, from a blues shredder, from what, and people would label him all different things, whether you liked him, hated him, whatever, sloppy, overrated, whatever. Slash is Slash, and one of the most distinctive guitar players of our time. I think. I always said, you know, when I first got into Guns N' Roses, I saw Slash like Jimmy Page of the 90s for me. And yeah, his acoustic chops on this reminded me of Jimmy Page playing Your Time Is Gonna Come and things like that. I just picked up all that vibe from it. But I think Axel's voice is incredible on this, and it really highlights what he's capable of doing. There's a lot of anger in his voice, but that's evident in Appetite for Destruction as well. There's a lot of anger. He was a very complicated dude, surely. We all know that. And he still, to this day, is. He had a lot of a different upbringing to most. And if you've read all their books, like Duff's book, Izzy's book, Slash's book, it was a complicated dude. And but I think he put 200% effort into every song he ever did, vocally, lyrically. Whether it was controversial or not, he did it. I think there was just as many controversial lyrical things he put in songs, including, you know, sections of Rocket Queen where he's, you know, put in there, you know, having a bit of fun there with a female in the studio, and people could take that one way or the other, but women loved that. They actually thought it was the highlight of the record for them. Nicknamed themselves the Rocket Queens. We used to have a group that used to come to our gigs. The girls used to call themselves the Rocket Queens. And, you know, it's one of those things, I think, take it or leave it for what it is. It's an era thing. I think in this day and age, people are too super sensitive. And I think they were back here as well. I mean, it's just a song. It's just someone singing about his point of view. And I always loved the song, and I still, to this day, I haven't heard this song for a while, put it on. It's like, oh, that guitar playing at the start, that tone, that everything was fantastic. I gave it 10 out of 10, and never a skip, guys. Andrew.
Awesome, mate. Appreciate that. John, Gretch Zeppelin's in the chat. Good to see you, bro. It's been a while, I think, since we've seen you live. So always a pleasure for you to jump on. And you're right, Helene. Back in the day, everybody, all the chicks here loved Duff. You know, they all thought, they all thought he was hot. He was the hot one.
Mm.
Everyone else was okay. But Duff was the hot one. He still looks pretty good today too. But yeah, no, look, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for jumping on with us, for talking about and ranking a great selection of songs that spanned a short period of the span's history back in 87, 88, you know. And for a lot of us, it set the benchmark for a lot of rock and roll bands to follow. And to the point where we're still talking about it today. So
it's a bit of a snapshot of the early days and where they were at back in '88. You know, it's a great contrast between, you know, before Appetite and where they were at when they recorded. So I thought it was really cool.
And I just want to remind you, if you're going to play any of these acoustic songs, remember to tune down half a step, because if you're tuned normally, you're going to miss the vibe.
That's
that
all,
half step.
All Guns N' Roses music's like that.
Yeah, yeah. You got to tune down half a step. And I remember when it was about the third or fourth time we all got together, and it was a friend from Auckland came down and said, "Tune down, guys, tune down." Okay, and it was like, wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 Mark saying, never had a problem with Guns N' Roses music. I was a mad rock and roller back then too. Axel took it a bit too far. Yeah. Well, look, you know, Axel's an interesting guy, isn't he? You know, and until he comes out with a biography.
That sort of stuff, like the stuff that Steel Panther have made into a mockery now, that was fair dinkum back then, to use an Australian term. You know, realistically, some of the stuff that we say, you know, it was rock and roll. It was rock and roll. It's all very funny until it's someone you love, I suppose. But yeah, so you do got to approach it with the lens of it being from another time.
100%.
But you know, also I can't listen to stuff the same way I listened to it when I was 20. When this thing came out on my 20th birthday, I think it was 21st birthday actually, 1988. So you know, it's just a different thing, and I'm sure there's a lot of things from my behaviours when I was a kid that I cringe at as well. But you know, it all colours your listening and your association with it, I guess.
That's right.
Awesome. All right, guys. We've been live for coming up to bang on an hour and a half.
That's what we wanted.
Yeah. Yep. Good to see you, Mark. I'm going to do the shout out because I haven't done a shout out for ages, guys. If that's okay, I'm going to do the shout out. So I'm going to go all the way back up to the top here. We've got Ellen. Thank you, Ellen, for joining us week in, week out. Appreciate it. This is your home, and the fact that you're jumping on, supporting us is always appreciated. And Bent, again, your support is fantastic. If you ever want to come on and talk about Pink Floyd with us, I know it's late where you are, but
every time you'd be falling asleep.
Yeah. Should you ever want to do that, you've got my details, mate. So reach out and we can talk about that, because you've done this before. You've been on Fruitcake Tony's show. You know all about this. You know how it's done. Mark Tanner, good to see you, brother. One of you, please, if you haven't already, folks, to go and check out Mark Tanner's account. John ZD351, thank you, brother, for joining us. Gretch Zeppelin, Jazz Thunder 50, Jim. He popped on to say g'day and hang out with us. Gretch Zeppelin popped on. Wayno from Boston was on. I think that's about it, guys.
And Helene.
I think that's everybody. And Helene, thank you for popping on and
And
supporting
Dwight
us. too.
Bailey's just snuck in.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Yep.
g'day, Dwight. Yeah, it's been a long time no see. We've seen a lot of people we haven't seen for a while on the channels. Thank you, Dwight.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, guys. And if you're watching the replay, make sure you do subscribe. And you, as Andrew always says, you get a subscription back. So it's always good for your channel.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll be back. Well, stay tuned anyway. We haven't heard from the Rock Professor. We're scheduled to go live with him next week. So hit the notification button and we'll keep you up to date. I can tell you that we were talking behind the scenes. He was going to pick a Van Morrison album, wasn't he? He hasn't quite nailed that down. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Would love to have the Rock Professor back. So probably have to do a 2-hour show because he'll be on for half an hour going, oh. Oh,
it's time to take my painkillers. Just wait.
Nobody got the paper in for me, so I had to get up and get the paper myself. Oh. Okay, we're just making fun. We do love him, don't we?
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
We're going to go. Thank you, John ZD351, brother. Thank you for popping on, hanging out with us.
Andrew.
Brad, as usual, brother. Thank you. Oh, watch it.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah. Oh, snapped.
Look who decided to get up.
Oh, we got snapped.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault. It was Brad's fault.
Oh, I'm sitting here silently.
Saying we love you. What are you complaining about?
I'm sitting here silently admiring my Les Paul, Simon.
Yeah, hold that baby up. Hold it up.
Hey, Andrew, Helene in the chat was asking if we're planning to do the Illusion albums. Have you already done them or?
No. We've only done this album and Appetite.
Mm.
But Brad mentioned last week we're definitely going to do them.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
The one thing about listening to this album, definitely, I remember really listening to those a lot back in the day. So I'm interested. I haven't heard them for a long time, and I'm interested to go back and revisit those because obviously I haven't put them on for a while. But I remember listening to them quite a lot, and then making a condensed version of all my favourites. So might dig that out. Yeah,
they're good. They're like Helene said, they're good albums, and to me they stand the test of time. And some of the tracks that I didn't connect with immediately, I connected with over time, and the ones that probably I would skip back in the day to get to another track I wanted to hear, I tend to listen to those ones more now.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
I think we've got to what we have to remember too. Well, certainly from my perspective back here, if Appetite for Destruction was the album, when Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 came out, they were just incredible albums. Everybody was listening to them. 13-year-old boys were walking down the streets wearing Guns N' Roses t-shirts, because of those albums. But
I was 13 when Lies came out, mate. So
Oh, yeah. So I rest my point.
Also, that's the thing where, like, Appetite was lightning in a bottle. It came out of nowhere. No one was expecting it. It wasn't like pre-planned, preordained or anything like that. Whereas Use Your Illusion was hotly anticipated. They were the biggest band in the world at the time, and they had free reign to do whatever they want. And it was like two completely different, sort of like birthing grounds for those projects.
And they had November Rain, that solo, that's single, that that song and that video blew the flag, didn't it, Brad, for those two albums? If it wasn't, Brad's got it.
I won't play because we'll get flagged.
I saw someone do that whole solo on one string.
Oh, wow.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's difficult because there's a lot of dual band notes and stuff in it. So that's very, very what do you call it? Very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
Anyway,
boys. Thank you for jumping on, and you folks in the chat. Obviously, it's a pleasure hanging out. We appreciate you guys supporting us. The Rock Professor is going to give us an update on the album for next week, and like I say, schedule a 2-hour session for that, because the Rock Professor has to fill us in for 3 weeks of absenteeism and all the stories that go with that.
Yeah. Can't wait to have you back on the show, Simon. Looking forward to it.
All right. Yeah, we're out of here.
No worries. Right. See you, chat peeps.
What
are you watching the window?
Bye.
Now it's time for Brad's Tech and Tone Tips.
Nah.